is Yudilin, and welcome back to the Rambled campus. It's been a little bit of a while since the last one, and I wanted to get this new video out such a long time ago, but it's finally here, and I'm finally back after I don't even want to check how long it's been since the last one. One of the things that I always told myself about this podcast is even if I have to go for months on end without making anything, at some point I will always come back because I'll always have something to talk about at the end of the day. So, hi, it's me again. Thank you so much for stopping by and thank you for tuning in. So, I am going to talk about some recent things going on with me because it's been a while. So the first thing I want to talk about is the classic films and things like that. I rewatched The 400 Blows again. It's easily become one of my favorite films, and each time I watch it, I notice something different in it that I didn't before. I've been updating my top 4 on Letterboxd a lot more recently. I think as of now, my favorite film is still Death in Venice. I think it will always be Death in Venice. And then I put A Complete Unknown on there because that's also one that I've been seeing a lot more recently. Don't Look Back is somewhere on there. I think it's on the top 4. I think it's number 5. All About Lily Choo Choo is one that I hold close to my heart. And then The 400 Blows. So I think at the current moment it's Death in Venice, A Complete Unknown, All About Lily Choo Choo, and The 400 Blows. Or The 400 Blows and then Lily Choo Choo. Something like that. But I've been watching both A Complete Unknown and The 400 Blows on repeat and finding new things each time. In terms of books, I started reading Jack Kerouac's On the Road. I wanted to read both versions, so I wanted to read the original scroll, the unedited, and I wanted to read the polished one. I decided to start with the polished one because I felt that with that I would be able to better understand the plot points and then maybe connect the dots later on with the regular scroll version. I've also been listening to the audiobook of Patti Smith's Just Kids, and I definitely want to get myself a physical copy of the book after I finish with the audiobook and just read it again but with the words on the paper, because I picked a really good narrator for the audiobook. I found it on YouTube. I can't remember the name of the channel or of the girl who runs it, but either way, I'll try to see if I can find it, I'll find it and I'll link her channel below. She has made a bunch of audiobook videos of different ones, and she just splits them up into parts. But I really like the one that she made for Just Kids. So I've been listening to Just Kids through her channel. And I just think it's such a beautifully written book, and I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm just gonna keep listening on. In terms of music, I've been listening to a lot of folk music again. I've been trying to experiment with other genres as well. I've been sort of dabbling into the slightest bit of country, but not the contemporary or the modern stuff of today. More of the country folk blends of the 60s and the 70s. In terms of specific artists, I've been listening a lot to Jesse Wells. I found that his last name was Wells, not Wellis. And I find that Wells is just easier than Wellis, but Jesse Wells sounds great, but Jesse Wellis, okay. I've been hearing things about how he's the next Bob Dylan, and I don't believe that, but I do find that he is definitely something special. I think that there's something that like needs to be said about like influence. Someone in the comments had compared him to Woody Guthrie and Bob Dylan at the same time, and someone replied that he found that Jesse was better than both of them, and I just had to say something about it. I said that, well, it's all about influence really. Without Woody, there wouldn't have been a Bob, and Jesse himself has made covers of Bob Dylan songs. Without Woody, there wouldn't have been Bob, and without Bob, there wouldn't have been Jesse. And in the future, there will be someone that will be the next person after that will be inspired by Jesse. And the cycle will always continue. Obviously, I have a special place in my heart for Bob Dylan forever. So no one's ever going to beat him. No one's ever going to top him, essentially. I think Bob is probably gonna be my favorite artist, like, of all time. There's just something that's within his music that I just don't think I'll be able to find anywhere else. But in any case, that's kind of what's been going on. I'm gonna give a little bit of a teaser. I made a film over the summer. Now, it's not a film. It's more of a documentation of the mundane, as I call it. This past summer, I felt the need to just take the moments of my day-to-day life and compile them. And so I started filming at the very end of May, and I finished right up in August 10th was the last day of filming. And I have recorded so much, so many people, so many things, so many experiences. And at the end, the film ended up being a little bit over an hour. And I just want to say that I'm going to work on getting that out, whether it be the whole thing at once or splitting it up into like 30-minute chunks, because I do want to make sure that if it gets uploaded, that it's in the highest quality possible that I can, and that's going to take some effort because of how long it is. So worst case, if I have to split it into different sections, I did have the thing separated into acts. So worst case, I could just release them as Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. The film is called Scritchmolt, and when I'm closer to getting this out, I'll make a separate video probably talking about it. But I just want to clarify that it's not a film in the traditional sense, but more so a collection of videos from my life this past summer. And it was quite literally like my little film child, and I was thinking about it all the time, and I was editing and working with it, and it's something that I'm gonna cherish and keep forever because I have a visual and auditory recollection of what happened this past summer. So I know I say that I start each Rambled canvas like right away with a poem, but I kind of talked a little bit beforehand. I do want to share with you a poem that I wrote, and this poem will transfer over to the topic of today, which was actually recommended to me by a friend because I feel like I have a lot to talk about for Rambled Canvas, but at the same time, I feel like I need to talk about specific topics. Like, in my head, like, I feel like there's, like, okay, what should I talk about next? Like, I have a lot, but what should I talk about? And I asked my friend a little bit right before making this, and she said that I should talk about poems and songs and how they intertwined. She recently made a song and it was beautiful. But I heard her recommendation and I was like, yeah, I should do it. So I'm gonna read you the poem and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about the poem, and then you'll see how it transfers over to our topic of conversation, which is gonna be songs and poems, how they intertwine and how they don't. So this poem for you that I wrote is called Tanker Ranked, Will You Weep? In parentheses after that. Tanker Ranked are both not real words. I think if you've been following me for a while, you know that I like made up words. In fact, Vili Mopa was made up, so expect more things like that to come. So this is Tanker Ranked. Will you weep for the boy that's been wounded? Will you weep for the boy that's been hated? Will you weep for the boy that's been spat at? Will you weep for the boy that's been a brat? What is said is not the final truth. Ruthless these fools are to see and plead the guilty, to wish what cannot be wished. Fish for the fear, that which you hear, is not all to say about the boy they name Tanker Ranked. The boy who's been called untamed, taken for a game, a joke of a name. Do you fear what you hear from those you call dear? For Tanker Ranked they'll never cheer, just sneer when he's in the clear, chuckle harsh words, chittering like birds. At first he was just a nobody, wanted to be somebody, and yes did he. Everybody would spread his name of tall tales, gossip, it would all rush from honest folks and the liars, it all spread like wildfire. Will you weep for the boy that's been despised? Will you weep for the boy that's been made a joke? Will you weep for the boy that's been feared? Will you weep for the boy that's been torn? And whatever did he do, you might say? It seems like everyone's got a story these days. He better watch what he says, someone get him out. Tanker Ranked shouldn't live, you heard someone shout. They know his name, they play this game, twiddle their thumbs, typing away. A guy like him is not meant to stay, he'll just play the bunny, act like a prey, but everyone knows the facade will decay. Souls that talk won't always bite, but the ones that do just want to fight. Will anyone ever hold his face? Tell him he's not a disgrace. Whisper in his ear that what he's done can't be undone, yet still. Like the seasons change, his ways that are strange, they range and arrange, exchange and change. Your reputation has been tainted like polluted water. Your river's not for drinking anymore. Tanker Ranked, why do you do? How do you live? How do you see? See what I mean? The ones that tease, they only please those in need to feed their hungry mouths, because whatever's bad to say is all right, as long as their own depiction's just right. Will you weep? Weep for the boy? Or will you laugh? Laugh for the boy? Would you rather see him smile? Would you rather see him cry for a while? But when the sun sets, no matter your bets, Tanker Ranked, his soul will follow the sun until his time here with us is done. And that's Tanker Ranked. Now, this poem was written partly last week, and the title for it was made up a little bit before that. I knew I wanted to name it Tanker Ranked before I even thought about what the poem would entail. Now, what does this have to do with the topic of poems and songs? Well, I wrote this poem as something that I wanted to be a song. I know songs can rhyme a lot, or they don't have to. They're very flexible and bendable. But Tanker Ranked is a bit of a song poem to me, and I would like to eventually do something with a tune behind it. In terms of tune and music, I've been picking at the ukulele recently. And I think the reason why is because I want to have something in the back of my poems. I want to have sound. Read the Morpa was my little first poetry child, but I'm in the works of something new at the moment, and they're not quite songs, but they're not quite just spoken words either. I want the ukulele to be a backbone, to be background, backbone, both bone, to be both at the same time and yet neither. I want to use the ukulele as something that I truly can use to better work and share my poems. They're not quite songs, but they're not quite poems either. I don't know what they should be. But now that I've shared Tank or Rank It, I'd like to talk about the actual topic that I was going to say, which was poems and songs. I feel like I've touched on this before at some point, but I wanted to go a little bit more in depth about it, or my thoughts on it. Poems aren't songs and songs aren't poems. Just because you write good songs doesn't mean you write good poems. Just because you write good poems doesn't mean you write good songs. There's people that have the misconception that a song is just a poem to words or vice versa. They use it interchangeably, but both are wrong. Sure, a really good song can be a poem, but a really good poem can't be a song. I feel that poems hold more flexibility than songs do, but at the same time, you don't have to be as complex in a song than you do a poem. And what do I mean by that? Well, when you write a song, when you make a song, there's a chorus. There's parts that can just be repetitive, and they're catchy. But when you do that with a poem, you have to be careful and you have to be selective, because repetition can be good in poems, but it can also be detrimental and it can harm your poem, because sometimes it'll make it dual. Some poems just aren't made to be like songs because they weren't written to be songs, they were written to be poems. Some songs would never make it as poetry. Some songs truly aren't anything if you strip back whatever instrumentals they used or the vocals, the way that it was sung. Which is another thing that I like to bring to attention. Sure, maybe I'm not the right person to ask, but my poems, naturally, all of my recent ones within the past couple of months, have been written with the intention of me potentially reading them aloud. In fact, they are truly coming to life when they're spoken aloud. They're made to be read aloud. And I didn't always write that way. I used to write for what it was, to read poetry, to have it be a silent act. But I'm not in the right space for that. I don't feel correct. It's not my space anymore. And so now I write poems that are begging to be leaped off the page and are best said, spoken aloud. That doesn't mean that they can't be good read, but just know that every word I say, every word I speak, every word I read is made to come out through the sounds of your voice. Any voice, high or low, fast or slow, the words were meant to come out through the human voice. And songs are like that too. Songs are purposely made to be sung out loud. And so in some cases, poetry can intertwine like that. A spoken word poem can do that. It can balance on the tight rope between saying nothing and saying everything, between saying something with a lot of words, lots of tunes, guitars, distortion, whatever genre you do, and saying nothing at all. When it comes to the ukulele, I'm trying to do a couple of things. A part of me wants to write music, wants to write songs. It's just been a difficult process to move and shift into a different viewpoint of having to sing. And I've talked about singing before. I've talked about my singing before. Because I'm not a singer by any means, but I do like singing. There are a couple of songs that I like singing a tune to. And I think time and time again I've been told to just do it. That you can't not just try. There's a channel that I follow that I'm a very big fan of, and that I will link his channel down below as well. His name is Johnny Muzza, and when I first started watching him, he made a lot of videos talking about making bad music and singing even if you sing horrible, because so what? And it was very inspiring, and I try to keep that with myself. And at the very least, I do want to make something on the ukulele. I want to play something because no one's heard anything. And I think what's really stopping me is just sitting down and practicing and just doing it, and not being afraid to release it out into the world, because you're scared of what would happen, of who would see it, of who would hear it. But it doesn't really matter. There's things that need to be said, there's things that are meant to be sung, and if you don't sing it, who will? If you don't say it, who will? If you have something that's in your head that you feel you need to write, whether it be a poem or a song, I ask of you, I promise, to say it. I had a strange experience where I dreamt up a weird collection of lines. It was a strange creature that told me, and I told a friend about it, and turns out he had written something that was extremely similar to what I had dreamt. And I thought that was extremely crazy. But I think that supports my idea that ideas go from person to person. If you don't take the idea you have and share it, I guarantee you it will go to someone else. And if they don't share it, it will go to someone else. It will keep jumping from person to person until it reaches the person that's willing to bring it into the world. I see it as a humankind collective. That ideas are little things of energy. They bounce between brains. And we're just one giant pool of human beings on Earth. And ideas just kind of bounce in our heads. And they kind of dig around for a little bit and see if it comes out. And if it doesn't, it gets out of our heads and it goes to someone else. That's why it says to write down your ideas. Because if not, you'll forget them. But maybe you don't really forget them. Maybe they just go to someone else. But yeah. The last thing I had planned to write about or talk about, my bad, was the difference between doing something on paper or on an electronic device, whether it be a laptop or whatever. I like paper and pencil. Maybe not pencil, pen actually. Then again, I type a lot faster and the words can flow. I don't own a typewriter, and I probably won't anytime soon, because the one time I tried using a typewriter, I realized how bad I was at using a typewriter. In any case, I think I'm going to leave it for now, the paper versus not paper debate. And I don't know if I've touched on that before. And I'm also pretty sure I've mentioned this, but Rambled Canvas is one giant thing. It's one non-ending continuous thing. So if I ever start talking about something that I've talked about before, just know it's probably because I want to go over it again. And I feel like it's just worth speaking about again. In any case, I'm going to keep that thought about paper and digital, because there's something that's magical about writing something down on a dead tree, because that's what it is. That's what paper is. And in terms of books and writing, I recently binded a sketchbook. I sewed a sketchbook together. It was hard, and I got frustrated, and it took me a while, but I did it. I made a sketchbook. I got the paper, I poked the holes in it, I got the thread and the sewing needle, and I binded it, and then I had the covers, and I decorated it, and it's mine. It's truly mine. I made a sketchbook, and it's basically my little sketchbook child, because, I mean, what more could you ask for? You made the book. You took your own hands and you sewed it yourself. And through all the frustrations, at the end of the day, you still have one. If you can, I highly recommend it. It's gonna be hard because I definitely messed up, and the book itself is not perfect. I'll try to get it posted, because I am pretty proud of it. But yeah, I remembered that about the pen and paper. It's not notebook, so it's not like I couldn't write poems in it. It would just be blank paper, but I made it as a sketchbook. I don't know why I didn't mention that at the beginning of the episode, but it's fine. The point is I got it out now. But I'll keep the digital and the paper debate in my head for next time. And I think I'll wrap it up here soon. My ending poem is going to be a small poem that I wrote a while back that I don't really think has much substance to it. And it doesn't really relate to what we've been talking about. But I think that's okay. So, I'd like to read for you this poem called That Which Is Not Found, and it's not too long. I'm also reading it right out of a notebook that is not officially edited. So, if I make mistakes, just know that I'm probably gonna edit this, or not, but I'm reading this straight out of the notebook. That which is not found. There's something that I'm looking for, can't tell you what it is. I'll know it when I see it, and that's about as much as I can tell. It brings me, you see, to many musicians, poets, writers, and artists, some in which it came to be that I have fell for. Their work, that's what I mean. I have been entranced, wanting to dance with the words and pictures of everyone I meet, hoping with each day I may grow to know what it is I seek, and know what I'm here to find, so that is which I may keep. I don't know what I'm looking for, if any is worth any at all, if it's something of value to search for, to call it close or dismiss it for all. In glimpses of people I think I have found from ones who are silent and those with no bounds, but a glimpse is nearly nothing. In people and birch trees I continue to search, what I may find or not this day. But try as I may, find or not, it'll come someday. I don't know the way, try as I may, but someday surely I'll find what I say. That is which is not found. I had another poem that I wrote last night, after having an interesting conversation and not really knowing what to think of it, and then just thinking about a lot of things, because in order for me to ramble, you need to have a lot of thoughts. But I think what people don't understand is that sometimes ramblers, they talk a lot and they say a lot, but they're thinking about double the amount that they're talking. So the name of that poem is called Bay at Ends Meeting, but I won't read that for you today because I'd like to edit that one properly. That which is not found is just one I wrote on a random day, just a daily thing. But in any case, that's all I really have for you today. I would like to make the next episode probably next month. I mean, it's the beginning of September. The fall's coming in, and then we'll start thinking about Halloween season. For October, if I make one in October, I might bring up, I don't know, something. I might write a scary poem or something Halloween related. I think that would be really fun. Inktober's coming up. I think for that I'm gonna do one giant drawing instead of what I did last year. It was a mess. I didn't even end up finishing it. I think if I make one giant drawing, it'll be easy to just combine all the themes into one. And if there's some days where I just want to do a quick doodle or something, it would still probably end up looking good. But in any case, that's really it. That's really it for right now. That's really all I have for you. But I'm excited to see what goes on again next month or 2 months. I'm crossing my fingers that I can have something out at the very latest, the end of October. But we'll see. But I'm not leaving you. I'm not leaving you guys. This thing is still gonna keep going, very much so. But yeah, that's all from me. I hope your summer was great, and I hope that your August was good. I'll see you in the next one. I hope everything is going well, and if it isn't, I promise it will get better. Alright? So, this is Yudilin, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in and coming back again for this next episode. But thank you so much again. Bye.